At 43 years old, when most chess legends have already slowed down their steps, stopped playing tournaments, or very rarely playing tournaments, for Levon Aronian, he is doing the exact opposite. He stormed through the rapid event of the 2026 Biel Chess Festival just recently, and he crushed his opponent, German super grandmaster Matthias Bluebaum, also a mathematician, in round number 5. It was a brilliant game, and today let's take a look at this game that Levon has played against Matthias Bluebaum. A brilliant game, as I said, and let's jump in and see how he wins with a spectacular fashion. So the game starts with e4, e6, and we have this French defense: d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, e5, knight fd7, the Steinitz variation. This is all the main moves: f4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. And here, normally for white would like to go bishop e3 or something to support the center d4 pawn, and then maybe develop this bishop. Because, you could, if you develop immediately this bishop, then black could play c takes d4. And if you were to take here, then unfortunately, there's this very nice tactic that black has, which is knight du5. And now if you were to take, the point is that you always have to watch out for diagonals. Here, black has queen h4 check, and you're going to be losing material. So here, after bishop e2 is not possible, but you have to defend this d4 pawn before developing. However, in the game, Levon played bishop d3 on move 7, and this is already a mistake. But again, this just looks so natural, and of course, white is not afraid of anything like c4, because c4 would be something in white's favor, just goes back, and with the queen side kind of closed, there's no longer any c takes d4 ideas. White will be able to have a great advantage on the king side by pushing those pawns, and whereas for black doesn't have any huge attacking ideas on the queen side. So of course, in the French, you're not afraid of any c4 ideas, but here the point is that after bishop d3, black could have just taken this d4 pawn, and after knight takes d4, c takes d4, the knight goes back, but here the queen can now come out with a check. And of course, you go for this bishop d2, very logical, but now after bishop d2, this b2 pawn you've just noticed is not being protected anymore, and the queen can just drop back to b6, and also at the same time defend the d4 pawn, and there's also bishop c5, knight c5 ideas. Black, I could say here, has the initiative. So this is the reason why bishop d3 was a mistake. It's not losing, of course, but it just simply wastes all of the initiative that white has. So after bishop d3, but again, this was just so natural, logical, it looks just completely fine. Just develop your pieces, following all of the opening rules. And here, black immediately plays a6 and missed the opportunity. But of course, a6 makes a lot of sense if you don't, at first glance, if you don't calculate any knight d4 or c takes d4 ideas. A6 makes perfect sense because it prevents any knight b5 ideas, and also in the future prepares b5 at some point. And that is exactly what black has planned. And in the game here, Levon went short castle. Now there's no longer any knight d4 ideas that is good enough for black, because after takes, knight e2 back, there's no longer queen a5 check. And here, this pawn is going to be lost. After bishop c5, you could play queen e1. This queen can come to this side of the board. This is a double pawn, and white is not in a hurry to win the d4 pawn back, but it's more important to launch an attack on the king side, where white is much faster in development, and all of the bishops are already eyeing towards the king side, so it will be really risky for black to castle short side. So this is all of white's ideas that is possible, and after short castle here, Matthias plays b5. And what did he miss? Well, after b5, again, this was simply his idea, a6, b5, but it turns out to be two moves that is completely not in the right direction. And after a6, b5, black is, of course, having a huge space advantage on the queen side, But here, most importantly, is that he wasted 2 moves on pushing his own pawns without developing any of the pieces, and without getting his king to safety to castle. So here, after b5, what he should have played is to develop his pieces with bishop e7, and then preparing to go short castle immediately. Always you have to get your king to safety before launching an attack, no matter on which side of the board, and that is the case here. And the point is that after b5, mouse slip. After this move b5, here the point is that if white were to play any normal development moves like bishop e3, then black will be fine after bishop e7. Then this b5 move might even be a benefit for black. But the point is that white is not going to play anything normal like bishop e3. Here, white has already finished most of his development, got his king to safety, whereas for black, black is really slow in both of these two elements. And here, white, Levon, immediately noticed and played the best move. He doesn't wait and plays f5. Really nice idea. Like, you're always striking. At this point, it's a perfect timing. It's a perfect time to attack your opponent, to open up, because your king, like your opponent's king, needs still 2 moves to get to safety, and white now just immediately goes f5, doesn't give black any time to develop, and after f5, Bluebaum here decides to go c takes d4. But actually it turns out that he could take on f5, but the point is that after knight takes d5, this just looks scary, and here black will need to play very accurately with knight b6, and this knight most likely goes back and attacks the f5 pawn. Let's say if black were to defend, and then here we have all of these high skilled calculation like d5 and everything, because if you take, then after, bishop takes b5 here first, and this beautiful discovered attack will mean that white is going to win here. So e takes f5, the point is that after knight takes d5, knight b6, knight e3, g6, and after d5, so of course black won't be able to take on d5, but instead could play something like knight b4. This makes more sense, but after d6, bishop g7, the computer says that this position black is still able to hold it, but when you look at this actual position, it just looks so scary with white having these two pass pawns 2 squares away from queenie. This is so scary, and it's a big question to black if he really has the courage to reach a position like this in the actual game. So in that case, black didn't take on f5 because it's too scary, and instead he took on d4. But c takes d4 is much less straightforward than e takes f5, and it gives white really great chances. And here f takes e6, f takes e6 forced, and after knight d4, queen b6. The point is that here, if you were to take on d4, now there's mate in 4, queen h5, g6, all forced, takes, queen ace, king e7, and here queen f7 is mate. So after knight takes d4, black couldn't take on d4, and instead played queen b6 to pin this knight, and threatens to take with the queen, and that is also with check. Now, what white needs to do here is actually very important. Well, first of all, you defend, bishop e3. This first move makes a lot of sense. But here, after knight d4, again, if you were to take immediately, there's queen h d4 with check, and there's no time for white to play any, bishop g6 ideas. Have this discovered attack, which will be winning the queen if this king weren't being checked. So it's very clear what white needs to do after you calculated the reason that why bishop takes d4 immediately is wrong. And here, white in the game, Levon plays very nicely. King h1 now threatens to take on d4. This is a very deadly threat because after takes, if black were to take, then there's bishop g6 and you lose this queen on d4. And here, since white is threatening to go bishop g6 after takes, after the exchange, this light square diagonal seems like the biggest issue that black has. And in the game, Bluebaum decides to go king d8 to run away from this annoying diagonal. and it looks logical again, but king d8 is a mistake indeed, and the best move was to play bishop c5, just to defend this knight at all cost. And after bishop c5, but of course white is not down material. Right now white is temporarily down a knight, but has enough compensation. Queen g4 first attacks this pawn as well. And for example, let's say you play knight c2, then after bishop takes c5, this is all the best moves. Queen takes c5, bishop takes c2, and black in the end has to give back the piece that he is up, and try to play bishop b7 or something and get the king to safety. But again, there's queen e6. And after queen e7, the queen can just drop back. A lot of calculation being done here, but at the very end of the day, you'll see that white is winning no matter what. But bishop c5 again is the best try compared to what happened in the actual game. Black played king d8, which is much worse than bishop c5. But white still needs to play very accurately in order to point out why king d8 was a mistake. And that is exactly what Levon did here. He played queen g4 first. Now white is pinning this knight and threatens to take it back. So here, Bluebaum, he also have some tricks. He played bishop c5 first to defend. This makes sense. And b4 was played here. And here, of course, the point is that after bishop takes b4, you could take on d4 immediately, but that is not what happened in the game. Black can play bishop c5, and even though this position, white is still winning, but in the game, it was a much better way how Levon did it. After b4, bishop takes b4, he played knight e2 immediately, and the slight difference between taking on d4 immediately and compared to playing knight e2 and then threatens to take on d4 is that now after bishop c5, white can take back with this knight instead to keep the bishop pair on the board. Like compared to this line after bishop takes d4, bishop c5, white is forced to trade off this pair of bishops. And of course, at this point, this position is already pretty much opened up, all the diagonals and everything. And of course, keeping the bishop pair on the board for white is the best option. So that is a very slight and precise evaluation by Levon, and he played knight e2 first. And then after bishop c5, then takes back on d4. Now white regains the piece back. And after knight d4, rook e8 here was played to defend the e6 pawn. But this is all useless. Kind of useless, because now Levon can just attack with rook f7. There's actually a saying that for the rooks, their best place, their final destination is always to reach the opponent's 7th or 8th rank. And in this case, white has achieved this goal for the f rook. This rook on the 7th rank is just a monster for black, and there's also no way for black to get rid of it. This rook is coming up to double on the f file as well. And here you can just see how strong it is when a rook is on the 7th rank or on the 8th rank. But the 7th rank is normally in general the most powerful rank for rooks. And here after rook f7, simply gaining control of everything. But black still have some tricks. And here the point is that black cannot take on e5 immediately because there's queen g5 and wins this knight immediately. So of course black knows that, and in the game plays h6, rook a7, rook af1, and then here h6. Because actually here, if you play h6 immediately, the point is that there's rook takes g7, and now knight e5 doesn't work because there's just queen h4. But in the game, rook e7 was first played, and here if you were to go rook g7, which is also possible, anything here leads to Rome. Rook g7 makes sense, but in the game, rook af1, the idea that I just mentioned to double the rooks on the f file also makes sense. And here after h6, now it is threatening, black is threatening to take on e5. This is a very tricky and an idea that white should not ignore, because if white allowed that to happen, then the attack might just completely stop and the tables could be turned at some point. So after h6 here, Levon found this brilliant move, I could say. A very quiet move, but it makes sense. And here, queen h5. Defends the e5 pawn, and the point is that here, if black were to take on d4, then this queen can go to h4 check, and this bishop is no longer on c7, meaning that the bishop cannot retreat back to e7 to blockade the check. And after king c7, bishop d4 just wins everything. So this was part of white's idea of playing queen h5. And here in the game, Matthias plays g5, desperately trying to blockade the defense path of the queen, and then still threatens to take on e5. But Levon doesn't care and again plays the best move. Well, here he calmly defends everything. c3, knight e5 was allowed, but here it was like precisely calculated. Rook a7, queen a7, and here queen takes h6, sacrificing the bishop. But of course, black doesn't dare to take, because after takes you lose the queen. So after queen h6, it just makes sense. Wins a pawn and also threatens the g5 pawn at the same time. And here after king c7, the final try, bishop b5, another brilliant move, like 3 brilliant moves in a row. And the point is that if you take, there's knight b5 again, forks the queen and the king, wins of course. But if black doesn't take, and of course that is what happened in the game, Bluebaum plays bishop d7 to blockade. But already, like, even though white is not up in any material, the pawns are even, but white is just completely winning because black's king is in a terrible place. All of his pieces are in terrible spots, and white is just, like, crushing. After bishop d7, bishop takes d7, knight takes d7, and here, knight e6, the rest of the game just ends very smoothly. Knight takes c5, rook takes e3, queen c6 check, and here after knight b7, king e7, queen d6, king e8, and here queen g6 was played. And here black resigned because king e7, and then there's a mate in one, queen f7, and that is checkmate. This game, what a brilliant game. 3 brilliant moves for the white pieces. There's a lot to learn from Levon's great techniques, but also I could say that for black, we could also learn from his, he resigned at the very last move where it is mate in one. And I think this is something that we could also learn when we're playing a natural game. Even if we're down a lot of material or in a completely obvious worse position, we should not resign. We should keep on playing, because what if your opponent gets under time trouble, or suddenly just don't know what's happening and then plays a blunder? Anything could happen. And I think resigning way too early, even if you know you're losing, is not a good thing. You should always play until the end. And yeah, this game can teach us a lot, and hope you guys enjoyed my recap of this game. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later.